in that particular, it's modern business scenario. Like the whole thing that happens in the beginning, where it's which one of you tell me how much you love me, and that happens like around a conference table in what seems to be an office room, like a conference room. It's very strange. And I was just like, the whole thing felt weird. And then like Edmund was some sort of like soldier. They almost seem to take out the references to the fact that him being Gloucester's son, it's almost like Gloucester's like a military general and he's like a private and he like dotes on him. I don't know, the whole thing's awkward. So it's just better to like watch or listen to an actual like play reading with like real actors trying to not do a gimmick. To me, otherwise you're just going like, oh, that's an interesting decision. Oh, that's an interesting decision. So it becomes not the thing itself, which is also a quote from Kaylee. It becomes this other gross kind of thing, a gimmick.
So in other words, don't watch the movie.
I mean, there are probably some good ones. Just the one with Anthony Hopkins that's on Amazon, I would stay away from that one. I mean, you could, but it's the accurate lines. It's just you're gonna get a visual that's not at all what's meant to be.
They have a little clip of it on YouTube.
Yeah. It just doesn't look very King Leary. You should be leery, King about that one, that edition. Haha. Dad puns. English teachers are very primed for dad jokes because we have all the language. That wasn't a pun, but I made it sound like it was. I thought maybe if I just said it, it would come out punny. I just didn't carry it. So after the midterm, I assign the research paper, which that might actually be a day where I have to hook the computer up again. Sorry, Emily. And you can just go ahead and die right now. It seems like, bleh. Yeah, everybody hates research papers, but only because it has the words research and paper. Other than that, it's actually not that bad. And then the sonnets of Shakespeare happen afterwards, and those actually aren't that hard. They're fairly short, and so it's not really that big a deal. And then, by the way, the critical analysis paper, which is due this week, don't write any critical analyses on the sonnets of Shakespeare. It says in the syllabus, unless you're writing about only one word from that sonnet.
Which would be very difficult.
Yeah, but doable.
But bigger.
Like, let's see. That would be kind of hard, depending on the circumstance. But let's see. There's let's see. What's a famous one? Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely, more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May. Summer's lease hath healthy short. Lease might work. It might. Yeah, temperate, because that kind of gets with, I mean, temper of a sword. Don't take my ideas. It would still be hard. Is that really what you were going to do?
No, I was just...
Oh, okay. You're just tossing a word out there. You're like, I heard you say temperate.
It was technically his idea.
But it might be a little too hard if you did like a love poem and then you use the word love, because you're being a little too obvious. Like, if there weren't any love in this poem.
Yeah, but you didn't say don't be obvious.
This is true.
I think you just prefer being obvious.
I know.
You just don't get as good a grade if you're obvious. I'm just like, I don't know. I sort of grade in that paper on original thought, and it doesn't look like if you're being original, then.
So is this just like when you did the too? Like,
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. I should show you.
Just reuse the one against
No, we different stories.
What was I about to? I was about to point at the screen. Oh yeah. Because it's a lot of fun. I just want to do it again. Give me the thing. Give me the thing. Give me the thing. Accurate English teacher words. So let's see. We're gonna switch over here for a second. We're gonna get in. We're gonna real close and cozy. I don't know why I have so much fun doing this. Dun, 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 dun. I talked to my wife about this, and she almost couldn't understand what I was saying because I was laughing so hard. Like what I had done. Oh no, this is not the right way. This is
You like think you're really funny.
I'm hilarious. I mean, there are some places. Okay, like I'm that what do you call it? That Andy, not Andy Warhol? No, that's the painter guy. Andy.
Dick.
No, that's the stupid guy. The guy that Jim Carrey played he played him in a movie, Man on the Moon. Andy Kaufman. I'm that Andy Kaufman kind of funny, where if I'm not being openly funny where everybody gets it, I'm being this subtle type of funny where maybe I'm the only one that gets it, but I'm still really funny. I'm sorry. I mean, you can disagree with me all you want. I just know I have enough experience with humor over the years. I know I'm funny. It's one of those things I don't even need validation on. I don't know. I kind of do in 1301 classrooms. I get a little worried in there sometimes because I'm like, for a second I think, oh, I'm not funny, and then I go, wait, they just weren't listening. And then I go, that's what it is. It's not that I wasn't funny. It's that they literally weren't listening to what I was saying. So I added this video. So here's I added this weekend. I added this weekend. But I also added one that I've never added before. I call it critical analysis explanation in 3 parts. So and I know this is probably still not big enough for Emily. So here we go, Emily. This is me trying to figure out angles and spatial reasoning. I'm also realizing how heavy my computer is and how weak I am as an English teacher as I hold it. Critical analysis explanation. I can't. I actually can't. I've gone as zoomed in as far as I can.
No, I meant there's that little square. You just press that and it makes, yeah.
Full screen your computer. Full YouTube video.
That's now what you've said makes sense to me.
Really?
I know I'm funny. Smart. That's another one. That's actually kind of that's up for argument. Yeah, that's a lot easier to hold. Thank you, Aaron. I could have died. Critical analysis explanation in 3 parts. Basically, I gave you the times at which they are too. So theme and how to find one is all the way 9 seconds all the way to 46:56. So if you think you're pretty good at finding themes and knowing what something's about really, you don't have to worry about that too hard. But breaking down a story finding the components, that's from 46:56 to 1:52. You could probably skip through there for most of what you need, but then when I actually sit down and break down prep work for critical analysis, that's when I'm going word by word out of a quote, looking for what's valuable so that I can then construct an outline for a critical analysis paper. That's where I get down to the actual nitty gritty. So everything before that's really more or less just how to analyze literature. So if you've never heard before in a class how to analyze literature deeply, it's kind of like what we do in class every day where we talk about what does this mean, why is this here, but in a more formal fashion. You could also, I think that I include that link that I told you I was going to do about terminology, because if not, I can do that right now. If I go over here to assignments, he'll actually looking. So I was just doing it for myself, and I realized you were looking up at the screen because it's there. Let's see if we go to, there's my cursor, assignments. And I scroll down. Yeah, I added it. So I got literary terminology for use PDF up. So it's got some literary terminology if you wanted to have different words that might help you talk about the literature. You might look through there and say, does any of this apply to what I'm writing about? And if it does, you can maybe highlight it and then decide to use it in your paper. It's totally up to you, though. I know it's boring. Why don't you shut up? Here we go. Official teacher stuff. That's really nice when it comes to me, though. Let's move on to talking about. I didn't even warn you guys about this play. We just sort of did it. By the way, it's a play.
No.
So was the last one, though, so I didn't figure it was anything really well written.
I didn't expect 5 acts.
I know, I tried to give you the 3-act version, but the Reader's Digest of King Lear was all sold out.
I didn't even finish it.
I have this. It's all in here. I'm actually going to change this, or so I thought. Weirdly, Jarrett was looking directly into the camera for a moment. It was kind of freaky. No offense, Jarrett. It's not that you're freaky. It's that the very nature of the fact that I had the camera pointed directly at your face, and you were like, it was strange. It was almost like you had some sort of knowledge.
I don't have that.
You don't have knowledge. Now we're going to go back to looking at Emily. So there's Emily. By the way, you do know, Emily, right, that nobody ever actually looks at me because there's a screen on. They just stare at you the whole time. Did you know that? People tend to look at screens. So.
Oh, they just stare at me.
I mean, you're there. Like, they don't look at me but there's a screen on, just like television at home or something. They just all look there. I don't know if you know that.
I mean, sometimes I can be entertaining, like when I eat or jumping jacks.
Usually do the jumping jacks like off camera though, so it's more like you're being entertaining, but not where anybody can see.
Yeah. That's
So
not for me.
there is that problem. Would you say the jumping jacks are for me? Yeah. Watching somebody do jumping jacks too is very boring. It's very repetitive, so it's probably best to, and also be very distracting because honestly, they're not looking at you. They're looking at me because I'm more interesting. Or they're looking like they are right now at their phones and other screens. You bunch of jerks. King Lear, whatever. Hey, you have my addition. We're addition buddies. Look, guy, we have the same. You have an A automatically in the class. That's all it took. You didn't know that, did you? Boom. Jared's got an A. Jarrett. I just didn't hit the T very hard. I just want to know. I didn't call you Jared.
It's been all my life.
Okay, I'm sorry, Janet. So, now I'm assuming that only happens the first day, though, right?
No, haven't had that.
How could that happen multiple times? I mean, after they established that you're Jarrett.
For the first couple years of my life, I was like, how does that happen? And then I just stopped caring.
Well, I can see because like you're not used to seeing Jaret.
Yes.
So the people go R must be an N, and I'm looking at it wrong, and then they say it, and then they realize it's you, and they're like, got it. It's got to be Jarrett, but they don't never make that connection.
Especially with roll, they say Janet a lot, and then I raise my hand, and they're like, oh, I must have gotten it wrong.
I must have gotten it wrong. Yes, that's an R.
Like I imagine many people probably got on this play Cordelia, correct? Makes sense. Lear, yeah. Probably we're close with Goneril, wouldn't you say? Y'all probably kind of said it in your head as Goneril. You may have said Goneril, but I doubt it. But you probably didn't say Reagan.
I said Reagan.
You did say Reagan?
Who
Good.
was that guy, whatever?
I know that the one y'all got wrong, though, is Gloucester.
Yeah.
Gloucester?
Yeah, Gloucester is actually Gloucester.
And then I got gonorrhea.
Goneril. I've wondered before. I don't think it is, but I've wondered if her name was the origin of like the term we have gonorrhea. I don't think it is, but she almost acts like she could have been. You know, I would say if there were an equivalent disease like Reaganism, like like Reganity or Reganinanity, like if they had that as like an STD, we'd be like, yeah, I bet they both came from. Is gonorrhea an STD? It is, right?
I think so.
If you think about it, so was Goneril, because she had to have been born, so she had to have been transmitted, and she's pretty much a disease. So, I mean, that basically sets it up. It is. It is. So, science won't be that hard. You actually kind of have 2 weeks where you don't have to read as much. That's going to be nice. And also with John Dunn and Ben Johnson, the readings are quite light too. We don't start getting into heavy stuff again until we get to Paradise Lost. So you kind of have 4 weeks where you're not really having to read that much. But for this week, King Lear, I bet it was kind of a, I'm assuming it was it was a bit tough read. Good read.
That's
I
why
But tough.
started and then I was like, no,
That's
I've
why
just
I
got
was
too much
confused.
stuff to do.
I mean, it really is really good though.
I started.
It's
Do you wanna
really good.
get a gold star for starting?
Gold
Congratulations,
star
you
for
started.
starting.
A gold star for starting.
I attempted.
I mean,
I just gave you your gold star, Jennifer. Congratulations.
Thank you. Good job.
I don't give gold stars.
Teacher sticker.
Gold stars are a lie. Gold stars are participation trophies, and that's what's ruined the world. So, I don't do that. I just say, here's your crap star, but you can revise. Star of crap.
Let's just.
What?
Poop
Gotten
emoji.
that from you, so I'm not really.
What? A crap star?
Yeah.
Not officially.
Oh wow, that's just.
That doesn't mean unofficially either. I just said non-officially.
Wow.
Y'all are very assumptive. Is that a word that can be used? Assumptive? I don't know. It should technically exist, right?
Interesting.
I'd like to create words just like shape. I'm just messing around. I always do
I know.
that, Stacy. I don't even remember what were we talking about. Crap star?
Something like that.
Hey now, you're
How
a crap
much
star.
reading it was?
Yeah, it's a lot of reading, but it's really good stuff. Really good stuff.
It leaves something to be desired.
What?
It leaves something to be desired.
Maybe I'll have you explain that and that'll get us started. Because I don't have the discussion posts in front of me, so it's hard to tell exactly where I should start. I mean, I could pull them up, but that is a good, like when you say leaves much to be desired, what does that mean?
It was just too cookie cutter. I don't know.
Cookie cutter in what way?
That it was like, oh, yeah, I could predict everything. I was like,
Everything all the way to the end?
pretty much. I mean, Shakespeare has a very common theme of death, likes to kill everyone. I don't know, it just when I was reading it, I was like, oh, this is probably gonna happen, and it came true. So I don't know. It was pretty.
In schools
So
now,
he
do you read?
dies, is what you're saying. He dies is what you're saying.
A lot of people.
It's actually not fully certain that Lear dies. I mean, it seems as though he dies. Oh no, he's dead.
Yeah, from
Yeah, he's dead. Yeah, it says off the page that he dies, and that's not in both editions. Because with Shakespeare, there's the quarto and the folio edition, and I don't believe in. I think this is based on the quarto because that's the one that Shakespeare like for sure wrote. That was the original edition, but the folio edition sometimes had revisions in it that people weren't sure were actually official. In fact, this book has the largest number of differences between the quarto and the folio editions because it didn't just have published works of Shakespeare. It was essentially like they had to decide to keep them all together, and like there was one edition that was, and then one later that they said we collected another edition, his updated works. But they don't really know exactly which ones or what parts of which were completely and totally approved by Shakespeare. So this book had the most differences in the quarto and the Shakespeare. Like I think in this one isn't. I always get confused because I've read both, but I have all the questions right. I believe it's Duke of Albany who inherits the kingdom here, isn't it?
I know you're not talking to me, so.
I'm pretty sure it's the dude, and then he's gonna split it with Kent and someone else, but Kent goes and kills himself.
Yeah, Kent says I will not do that.
Yeah, Lee's too loyal to, or was too loyal to Lear. I mean, Lear freaking kicked him out of the kingdom, and he's like, and says, if I can see you here in 10 days, or after 10 days, I'm going to have you killed. And he's like, alright, well, let me just put on a disguise and keep serving under you.
Oh no, yeah, this is the one where Edgar ends up ruling. Because he says, bear them from hence, our present business and general woe. And he says, to Edgar and Kent, Albany says, friends of my soul, you twain rule in this realm. And the gourd states the same, and Kent says no. And so Edgar ends up, like, I guess, because he doesn't deny, agrees to rule.
And see, that was one of the things I'm talking about, like the cookie cutter, like, of course, the legitimate son rules.
Well, the weird thing is the legitimate son rules, but at the same time, he shouldn't be inheriting any part of the kingdom because it's Duke of Albany, Duke of Cornwall, own everything.
Yeah.
You'd think Duke of Albany gets it, but he's like, I want no part of it at the end.
Oh, yeah,
And then Edgar, for some reason, I mean, he just inherits it mostly because...
his dad was boss man.
Right, but he that wasn't a portion of the kingdom.
But
No,
he was the
not at all.
bastard. So why did he get anything before the legitimate? I mean, I know he tricked.
Well, no, Edgar gets it. Edmund is the bad one.
The legitimate one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then Edmund tricked the dad and was like, "Oh, Edgar's gonna kill you." So why did he get anything if he was, you know?
Why did he?
Because I don't
Bastard?
think bastards
Because
work
there was-
exactly the same way as it did in Game of Thrones.
Actually, they kind of did.
It was
But
similar.
the thing is if there was no one else to take on your
Right.
line,
Oh.
it
He had
kinda
no
to
other
go to
kid.
bastard.
And I don't think there was the wife was completely out of the picture too, and
Yeah.
there were no other children.
Okay. Hands
How
up for
about-
anyone that's watched Game of Thrones?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So
So don't make a lot of
dude,
Game of Thrones
yeah,
references. Is that what you're
I
saying?
have no
Okay.
freaking idea what you're talking
Well, then I
about.
won't. Well, I mean, literally, we're just talking about the play. We only said Game of Thrones for
I
like
know,
a half
but
second.
I mean, like, comparing it, and so you're saying, well, in this.
Oh, so you
Yeah.
couldn't tell whether we were. Actually, you know what I'm gonna do? Because I don't want to accidentally mess it up.
We're gonna watch it.
No, I'm gonna go to. I'm gonna do something for the benefit of some people here, because depending on the folio, and in fact, why don't I do King Lear? What is this mostly from? Folio of the Corda. Because they say here in the beginning. Because I'm actually using the Folger Shakespeare edition, which is the same as the one that was linked to. Oh, it's got a mix of both? Oh gosh, okay, well. I'll just say then. Is it a really short one? Because I don't want to do too much. How long is this? I'm talking to myself.
Oh, it's like, I don't know.
Okay, this is really short. This is 5 paragraphs long, and it's from Spark Notes. And I'll correct anything that seems to be a glaring error, which I don't expect. But for the benefit of some here, who might not be able to know the entirety of the plot, we're going to just do a quick summary of King Lear. When I summarize it, it takes like 45 minutes, and because I just never stop talking. But if I do a quick little summary, we'll all kind of know exactly what went on. I already want to start. I literally got to the first word, and I was like, I'm just going to start doing it.
You could have just pulled up the synopsis.
That's what I'm doing. Yeah, I've got it right here.
He just has trouble just.
Yeah, I got literally the plot overview of. There's no page 2, so it should be. Wait. Oh no. Next section is 5 key questions. Okay, stay in the lines, Nichols. This is so hard. I can't. Can I even do this? Am I even capable of this? Maybe if I do a voice, I can make myself. God, it's so hard. Lear, Lear, the aging king of Britain. Close Home Depot ad. Hold on.
That's not part of it.
Yeah, that's no problem. Lear is the aging king of Britain, and decides to step down from the throne and divide his kingdom evenly among his 3 daughters. First, however, he puts his daughters through a test, and he asks them to tell how much each loves him. I just want to take over. Goneril and Regan, Lear's older daughters, they give their very flattering, and I'm already doing it. My gosh, very flattering answers. You know, like, oh, I love you so much. Oh, I love you so much. But Cordelia, the youngest daughter, and she's his favorite daughter, she remains silent. She tells the audience that, I don't like how it says this. She says that she has no words to describe how much she loves her father, but she says, I cannot heave my heart into my throat. But I don't know that that necessarily means she's unable to tell him how much she loves her as much as she is unwilling. It's like if somebody says like, oh, I need you to like, you know, if you're at work and somebody says, hey, I need you to like, I know that this person came in at this time, but I need you to say on the schedule that they came in at this time, okay? And it's like your manager, and you're like, I can't do that. Like says like rewrite people's times.
No, he read his time.
Oh, he's like, oh, I came in 2 hours ago. But if he asked you to do that, you'd be like, I can't do that.
That's why I quit.
Not like I won't do that, but I can't, even though you really mean you won't. You know, so I think that's what she's saying. It's like, I'm not going to like just sit here and heave my heart up into my throat. I'm not going to say, oh, I love you so much, Dad. Like, you know how much I love you, and it's bullcrap that I even have to say it. So Cordelia will not play the game.
Whereas
His sisters are like, oh, I love you so much. I love you more than like the sun, like all this stupid stuff. What was it? One of my, like, what now?
I said to play the Game of Thrones.
Yeah, in Game of Thrones, you either live or your father doesn't give you the kingdom.
Or everyone has to do that.
No Game of Thrones references. Stacy is killing Stacy. So then after this, Cordelia won't do it. She's his favorite daughter. Lear flies into a range. He disowns her. Literally says you get nothing. Goneril, Regan, the crappy sisters, which we don't know yet. They get everything. And the King of France, who has courted Cordelia, says that he still wants to marry her, even though the Duke of... the Duke of... not Cornwall, not Albany, not Gloucester even, is or Yorkshire. Burgundy, Duke of Burgundy. Yeah, my word is out of my head. Duke of Burgundy. He says, so go ahead and marry her. And Duke of Burgundy's like, well, if you still give exactly what you said you were in the first place, the same portion that you originally said that you would do, I'll still marry her. And he goes, no, she has nothing. She's got nothing. No land, no crap, nothing. And Burgundy's like, yeah, I gotta go.
Like, I'm out.
Like, I'm sorry, I don't really. Whereas the king, like the literal king of France, is like, she's more valuable to me now that she wouldn't do that. So I'm gonna take her. So he takes her back to France. Lear quickly learns he made a bad decision. Gonor and Regan swiftly begin to undermine the little authority that Lear holds. He just says, all I want is like 100 knights as a retinue, and then I will just go stay with whomever. So he goes to Goneril's house, and she's like, these knights are drunken. They suck. I'm going to cut you down to 50. You got to get rid of 50 of them. He's like, no, this pisses me off. I'm going to go stay with Regan. Gets to Regan's house, and she says, yeah, and she's already talked to Goneril about it. They've had like a little discussion about it. She says, yeah, actually I find the 50 too much. I'm going to cut you down to 25. Like, what? No. And so he feels like, oh, I've made a bad decision. And unable to believe that his beloved daughters are betraying him, Lear goes slowly insane. I don't have Cordelia, the one that actually loved me, and the other two are being rude to me, and like I'm losing all sense of power. He's already like, what, 90? Yeah, so he's like pretty up there. And it's bad.
Happy anybody wanted him to begin with.
He should be happy?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he was the king. How do you go from being king of everything to being like, well, I'm going to turn everything over to my kids to no power anymore and no respect? That's got to be a rough switch. You know? Like, imagine and I don't mean anything by this.
Like, I mean, even more
Yeah.
example that's real. The Russian, like the czars, they were like the kings before they had the
Yeah.
revolution. They went from, like being they were gods,
Yeah.
and then the revolution, and then they were just kind of, people spit on them and they kicked them around, like, so generations, like thousands of years of like godship, and then within like a year, back then, like just nothing. Imagine that.
And we can't even have new money doesn't even know how to deal with that these days. Like, I mean, the people who lost everything they had in the economic collapse, the banking crisis, remember? When like the mortgage rate went down to 0 and suddenly nobody had money. Most of y'all probably don't remember that. Stacy does. Because it was sucky during that time for a lot of people we knew. I don't know if it was for you. Your husband's a cop, you probably still had money.
It was like, what, 11 years ago?
Yeah, it was 2008 was when it happened. Happened under Bush, and then Obama ended up doing the bailout because that was the only, once it got to his presidency, that was when it had to be done.
I had just graduated high school. I was working under the table anyway. I was getting paid cash.
Yeah. Because they were like, I can't afford the taxes anymore to pay real workers. I had to fire them to pay you under the.
I became a manager of that warehouse.
But people who were like, their families were like stock traders and like big CEOs and stuff, they lost their jobs and lost everything, and would still go out and with their credit cards buy like caviar.
Yeah, no, I heard about that.
Like it absolutely made no sense. Like people, they just did not even know how to handle a difference in their lifestyle. And I can imagine with a czar or especially a king, suddenly being told like you can't have all your knights, your people, you have no respect, you've got no power. This is your life now. That's gotta suck.
They treated him like crap, and then they tortured him, and then they killed him because they couldn't handle it. So.
Yeah. With the czars.
They killed the czars.
Yeah, the czars.
Because they couldn't their lifestyle now.
You need to respect me. No, we don't.
Just did for 300 years.
It was one of the reasons, like when we were in 1302, I always felt that was one of the reasons, even though he was still a martyr, the character Abner from Barn Burning, once the slaves were freed, while he was always a sharecropper, now he was a sharecropper not working above slaves, but working alongside slaves. And just even being a common person who now is equal with the other common people who were beneath you, that sits wrong with people. So I mean, any change in power in society anywhere, like I mean, people don't like being suddenly subjected to a sudden change in power. Usually, if it involves you losing some. Whether you can't handle it or whether you lash out, something happens. So, Lear's daughters aren't respecting him, and he's already given them the kingdom, and it sucks. I knew I was going to end up doing this. I've already gone off for forever. Okay, let's see. So, Stacy,
I'm listening.
Lear then goes slowly insane. Like he starts to lose his sanity. He flees his daughter's houses to wander on this field during a thunderstorm. Ends up stripping all of his clothes off. He's accompanied by his fool, who's like a court jester he's had the whole time. But the court jester, he's never funny.
No,
All he ever does is tell him the truth in a really weird way. And he's always like, I'll effing end you. And he's like, ha ha ha, no you will not. And then he calls him he calls him like Nuncle, which is like
Nuncle.
like almost like you would call a weird pet name for your uncle.
Everybody that he talks to is like, no, Nuncle, you gotta do this. And it's like, just stop calling me Nuncle.
Yeah, he's just like this creepy, weird character. And he says, accompanied by, and also Kent, which, this summary sucks. Yeah, Kent disagreed with his decision originally
Okay.
to get rid of Cordelia. He says, I think you're being a little brash. And
he basically said, calm down, take a minute to think about it.
And then he said, you've betrayed me, Kent. And so what Kent did instead was Kent went undercover as like...
An old man.
Actually, yeah, an old man, and he named himself... It only pops up once in the entire play. He named himself Caius. And he went by this name Caius in disguise, because disguises always work in Shakespeare. They just always do. If you disguise yourself, nobody's like, wait a minute.
Even though when you go see the plays and they do that shit, the disguise is literally like weird. That's it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, guys. I just realized something. I'm going to put a marker in here. Lear... He's wandering the countryside. He's gone insane. He's with his fool and Kent, who disguised himself successfully because it works in Shakespeare. Might work in Avatar times, but doesn't work right now. Eventually, it's not mentioning this either. Oh, okay. It's talking about, meanwhile, an elderly nobleman named Gloucester also experiences family problems. His illegitimate son, Edmund, tricks him into believing that his legitimate son, Edgar, is trying to kill him. It's really brilliant, too. Edmund, writes a letter in Edgar's handwriting. Says he found it tossed into his closet. He's like, I found this letter tossed in my closet. What's it say? I don't want to tell you, Dad. And he's like, no, tell me. What do you? Or he's hiding it too. He's like, what do you got there? Nothing. And he lets him read it, and he says, it says basically Edgar's trying to kill you. Or he's like, hey brother, we should try to kill Dad. And he's like, what? Is this real? And he's like, I don't know. I can't know. It looks like his hand, Dad. I'm not sure. But Edmund wrote the whole letter, and it's all like screw over Edgar. And so he gets the kingdom or Gloucester's stuff. So fleeing the manhunt that his father has set for him because of Edmund, Edgar disguises himself as a beggar as well and calls himself Poor Tom. And he acts crazy. That's what got so confusing, is once he shows up and the fool is there, and they're all saying the same damn thing, you can't tell who's who for a little while.
You actually think Edgar is crazy.
Like, he seems legitimately crazy.
Yeah.
And then Lear, he also heads out onto the big field. Now, when loyal Gloucester realizes that Lear's daughters have turned against their father, he tries to help Lear in spite of the danger. But Regan and her husband, Cornwall, discover him helping Lear, and they accuse him of treason. Like, how dare you help Lear, you traitor? Kind of like the way right now there are people in the government saying, we think that Trump might be a traitor. And so their response is, Trump is saying, they're traitors for trying to stop me.
No, you.
And they're like, well, wait. Like if you're no, you. I think he's a traitor. You're a traitor. You're a traitor. Everybody's a traitor. It's like all these traitor talks.
You're a traitor.
I think you're a traitor. Gloucester realizes Lear's daughter turned against him. Regan and her husband Cornwall discover him helping Lear, accuse him of treason, blind him. They poke his eyes out. Gloucester's got no eyes, so Edgar and Edmund's dad, no more eyes. And then they turn him out to wander the countryside. So they just leave, and for some reason, I guess he keeps walking. I would just lay down. Or no, I think they said he couldn't. They said you have to go. So he ends up Edgar finds him blinded and leads him out toward the city of Dover, which you all know what the Dover is, right? Where the cliff's at?
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, he didn't mention this. That's where Gloucester sent Lear was to Dover.
Yeah.
He forgot to mention that when he.
Yes, I forgot to mention this. So Lear and Gloucester both in Dover, like Dover, like the cliffs, where the White Cliffs of England are. And yes, it says toward the city of Dover, where Lear has also been brought. So in Dover, a French army has landed because Cordelia and the King of France decided to get an army together because they hear what's going on over here, and they come to defend him.
Not gonna treat my dad like that.
So she's trying to save her dad. So Edmund apparently becomes romantically entangled with both Regan and Goneril. So Albany is Goneril's husband, but Albany's actually a decent person. Cornwall, though, is a horrible person, and he's the one who plucked out Gloucester's eyes. Yeah, so he sucks. But both Regan and Goneril have become like enamored with and lusting after and fighting over Edmund, the bastard of Gloucester, who's caused all the problems for Gloucester in the first place. It's a complicated setup. So Albany is increasingly sympathetic to Lear's cause. Goneril and Edmund conspire to kill Albany because Goneril and Edmund, she's like, we got to kill Albany. He's not for us. He's against us. Then despairing Gloucester tries to commit suicide hilariously by Edgar. He's like, just take me to the edge of the cliff. Edgar's like, okay. Takes him to like this little tiny rock that's like this high off the ground. Walks Gloucester on top of it, and he said, I'm assuming he's like, can you feel the wind? Like, and he says, here we go, we're going to jump 1, 2, 3, and then Gloucester jumps, and it just, the idea of him jumping off a cliff freaks him out, and he faints, lands on the ground, which is like a foot down, and he says, what happened? And then he pretends to be yet another person. He's like, well, you fell off, and just magically you survived. It was nothing I've ever seen. And he's like, oh, wow, okay. Leading off and imagining it. So meanwhile, the English troops reached Dover, and the English, led by Edmund, defeat the Cordelia-led French. So the French, led by Cordelia, defeated. Lear and Cordelia are captured. In the climactic scene at the very end, Edgar duels with and kills Edmund. So Edmund's now dead because Edgar killed him, or he's dying at least. And we learn of the death of Gloucester. Gloucester's been killed. Which is a sucky way to die, but there's so many, you can't fit them all in.
Too many people die, we can't show you everybody.
Goneril poisons Regan out of jealousy over Edmund. Then she kills herself when her treachery is revealed to her husband Albany, because he's like, like, I'm not going to be with you anymore. She's like, poison myself after somebody poisoned her sister. It's like the Partner's Tale, like all over again. Edmund's betrayal of Cordelia leads to her needless execution in prison. And Edmund tells them like what has happened to her, and like they go and try to save her in prison real quick. Lear runs off to her, and he's too late. Apparently he kills the guard though that killed her, and he comes back with Cordelia's body like holding her like, wait, I think I see a breath or something. Like, it's just so sad.
And then he dies.
And then he dies out of grief.
Yeah.
Because she dies. Huh? Yeah, that's the picture of it, like on the front of hers is like him carrying her. And he's way older than that. No, he's like freaking 90. There's no way he looks that good.
But he was able to duel a guard and kill him.
Yeah.
At 90.
Yeah, 90, because he's freaking Lear.
Well, let's face it, what probably happened is the guard was like, 90-year-old man.
He just backs up and the dude stabs him. And so Albany, Edgar, and Kent are left to take care of the country under a cloud of sorrow and regret. And then that's the whole play.
Like, I can't rule.
Yeah, so that basically gets us to the end of the summary. But now we're all caught up to speed. And then next time, we'll actually talk about the implications of all this stuff and the interesting junk that we haven't already covered. One of which is that this story already kind of existed as a fairy tale that existed at the time called Love Like Salt. And this was a play that was put on, and everybody sort of watching this was like, oh, I know this story from the beginning, but it didn't quite turn out the way that they would have expected.
They were like, what the?
Yeah, believe it or not, this was put on not as the tragedy of King Lear. It wasn't announced that way. It was announced as the chronicle history of King Lear. And they all already knew who King Lear was because it was already a folktale at the time. It had already been put on as a folktale.
Yeah, but if you think about a lot of Shakespeare stuff, like it was a 50-50 crapshoot. You were either leaving there happy as hell, or you were leaving there going, "What did I?"
But that's the thing is that they went, oh, we have a 50-50 chance of like being happy or sad or so, like chronicle history. Oh, good, it's not a sad one.
Wrong.
And it's King Lear. Oh, I know King Lear.
No, it is sad.
Yeah, it's pretty sad. Y'all have a great day.